My hockey too sucks. It's probably like don't watch it. But hey, you watch things. It's nice to visit. That a long time ago, but we were there, Coach Chief, you learned.
Looks like we have a full council. Appreciate them being here as well. We'll go ahead and begin. We've asked Councilman Allen to give us an opening prayer, and we'll go ahead and cite the Pledge of Allegiance.
Our dear God, Heavenly Father, we're grateful to meet this evening as residents of this city, and we ask that we can be guided, we can be led and inspired tonight to best meet the needs of those with whom we live and whom we serve, and with those in the surrounding area. We're grateful for this opportunity to be able to make decisions that we hope will benefit those in this area, and we ask that we can do our best to make the right decisions. And we're grateful for those who have sacrificed so much to give us the freedoms that we have, and to those that have laid down their lives for our benefit. We're once again grateful to come before you this evening, and we say this in His name, Jesus Christ, amen.
I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The first item on our agenda tonight is the minutes from the last meeting.
I made one correction on line 3 with Sunshine. It's Mayor Bird, not Mayor Burr. And she's corrected that. Other than that, I move we approve unless someone has.
Any other amendments or corrections?
I'll second.
Okay, we have a second by Councilman White. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any motion passes. We do have our public comment period at this time. We allow anyone from the public to comment up to 3 minutes. We ask that you come to the podium and state your name for the record. Are there any here tonight that would like to take that opportunity? Oh, darn, Marianne, I thought you were gonna.
Nope.
Okay.
Good, thanks.
All right. Seeing none, we'll go ahead and move forward with the next agenda item. So tonight, we have public hearing for the CIB bond for our baseball complex, or our sports complex. We did notice that there's a couple of things that we have to do with the CIB, so we have our who was it? It was Jeanette, but I can't remember. Bond counsel. That needs to present some of these figures to the CIB and just finalize a few things. But we still wanted to move forward with this and just get a little bit of comment from the public. We do have a little more information to present to the council as far as what our payment's going to be, and just kind of fill that out. So if you look at your paper, the large paper, that shows, and Rhonda, you want to come and explain a little bit on this to the
What you
council?
looking at?
Yeah, what we're looking at and what this does as far as our budget goes.
Okay, so basically our long-term debt, we have another little page there that shows our long-term debt as of right now. Currently, the city has $7.3 million worth of debt. All of that debt is at this time interest-free with the exception of the aquatic center and the Hayden tank. Both of those, if I remember correctly, are 1.5%. And so the larger piece of paper shows the payout that the city has commitments to on that current debt. And they did add a line on there for the sports complex, just so we would be able to see what we'd be looking at for payments. So fiscal year 23, we have $532,000 committed in debt. If we were to go with the sports complex package that's been offered, our debt would increase to about $700,000 per year, increasing 2028 being the largest year. We would have a commitment of about $815,000. Then gradually, slowly going down. after about 10 years from now, we'll have a lot of our debt that will be paid off, and we'd definitely be able to absorb the payment a little better from that point on. So, at this point, this just gives you an idea of where we're at on long-term debt and what our obligations are.
One of the things that we wanted to make sure the council understood too, when we went to CIB, obviously we were looking for the 50-50 split, which would have been nice. We didn't get that, but what we thought we were offered would have been a payment of around 120 to 129,000 a year. And so when we saw the actual numbers come through and the spreadsheet come through, and noticed that it was significantly higher, we wanted to bring that before the council's attention as well. I know it's been presented that for this project, we do a fundraising campaign also, and see if we can raise some funds for that. I think that needs to be part of the discussion. To what degree? I guess we can talk about that tonight. But just wanted to see where our comfort level is with where everything sits right now. And so we open it up to the council for discussion thoughts. What are your thoughts on that?
So this extra money, is that gonna be, are we gonna have to raise taxes or anything on the community, or is that money we have enough coming in to cover that extra, or do we have it in our, I'm just curious.
We currently have a budget that's right in line with the revenues that we bring in. So to take on additional payments, there is likely that we would have to look at doing some sort of an increase. We have not increased property tax or any of our fees for some time. And we're diligently not to do that, knowing everybody in that crunch. They're getting bombarded with increase from every direction. So, but very likely with some of the things that the city has taken on over the past few years, we'll likely be looking at having to do some increases in water fees or something at some point.
We had studied this for quite a bit before this meeting. That's part of the reason we're late. But just looking at ways that we can, it's a great project. I think there's ways that we can make it happen. Might be a little bit different than what we had expected, but I'm optimistic that we can make this happen, keep it within budget or even below budget. And, with fundraising and some other avenues, I think get that number back into where it needs to be.
I think one thing mentioning is that our debt looks like the golf course aquatic center sports complex, our annual payment with the sports complex would be about half of our annual debt payments just for recreation. I think it's worth noting.
Just wish we were like 7, 8 years down the road where we had some of these others soon to be paid off, because that would sure make it a lot easier.
One of the things that we did talk about as well is we have at 1.2 million that we've allocated to this project. And so if we could pay the debt down right off the bat, with that, we can hold that, which wouldn't be very smart in my mind, because the interest rate is 0.5%. We're gaining, what are we getting on?
This one really is 2.8% is what our PTIP accounts are accruing.
So we're accruing 2.8%. But taking that money and utilizing that, you're tagging that to pay the payment until 2028, 2029, when our overall debt would fall.
The 1.2 would buy us about 7 years probably, so that would get us closer where then we start paying some of these other off, then it would make a little more sense.
some of the other things we talked about is treating this project similar to the walking path and the nature park, as far as just seeing what kind of like-kind donations we can get, help with equipment, help with leveling the field. Personally, again, I'm optimistic that I think we can get this project done for cheaper than what we anticipated, with a little bit of elbow grease.
If we accepted the 3.5, but we don't have to take the 3.5. If we take less, then we just pay back what we borrow. Or do we have to pay the full 3.5 back plus the half?
I think it's less whatever we got. So if it ends up being less than what overall project cost is less than what is allocated, then yeah, it would be determined. I think our first payment would be in October next year. And so that would be determined at that time what our overall liability would be.
Mayor, just a clarification there, if we end up spending less than the 3.5, the first amount that we don't spend is the grant. So we have $280,000 grant, so say we save $300,000, we basically just wiped out the grant. But any beyond that, we are saving that loan payment.
Okay.
Right.
Thank you for the clarification.
Now, would that be all grant or would that be a proportionate share? So let's say it's a 92-8 split. So let's say we save $1 million.
All grant goes out first.
Okay.
So it's unfortunate that's the way they do it, because they're not incentivizing us to save money, but that is the way the CIB works. Grant is what gets me first.
One of the things we thought about doing too, so because we have to go to our bond council and make sure that some of this stuff is submitted officially to CIB before we thought that was going to be done tonight, but it looks like it'll be next meeting. So we do have a couple weeks to look at this. We went ahead and kept it on the agenda just because we would like to have some public comment with the information that we have, the new information that we have. But there's a lot of questions that we can answer between now and our next meeting with, I think all of us can go to, our different professions and things like that, and talking with those that utilize the fields, brainstorm a little bit, look at ways that we can accomplish this maybe in a little bit different way than we had anticipated.
I'm just uncomfortable raising the property taxes or the fees if we can avoid that at all. And I know we're going to talk about one tonight, but I would rather not if we can, especially on this. I like the idea, the 1.2, maybe putting that aside and using that to make our payment. That way that would buy us 7 years. And then if we can get in-kind donations or other help with it, then maybe that'll offset that. And then we can get to 8, 9, 10, and then we're down to a lower payment. I'm in agreement. I think it's definitely a need based on the amount of usage, et cetera, and based on, talking to people. But like I said, the tax is what I'm concerned about, and I don't want to have to raise taxes. I'd be very uncomfortable with that, and I don't know if I could support that.
Good point.
We don't have a breakdown of the cost yet, do we? I'm just curious. I'm sure
You have that.
Look at lighting, things like that.
We talked about that lighting was 1.1 or 1.2 million. Yeah, and that's what we were thinking. That's a significant chunk. The other thing we're looking at too is Duchesne was looking at doing some ball fields, and their budget was much higher than even ours was. They were using different engineers and going a different route. But we were looking at teaming up with Duchesne and trying to find some savings in, if they were needing lighting, if we could do, the projects. They have $4 million, I think, that's been allocated to spend at this point. And if we could do those two projects together, there might be some savings in economies of scale and buying things together and things like that. So ultimately, we have the money to do it. It will be tight, and it just makes me a little uncomfortable that it puts us in that kind of a position for that many years. I think, though, with a fundraising effort and things like that, and looking at like-kind donations. I think we can get it within a reasonable amount that would be more comfortable for us to do.
Mayor, just, I know that on the State Street, for example, the bid came quite a bit higher, and then we scaled it a little bit, and then it still was high, and we went to CIB to get that. I'm wondering is there things that in the ball fields that we could maybe, because we had pickleball courts and some of those things, maybe there's some things that we scale a little bit. I don't know. I'm just throwing out an idea, but I'm just, like I said, if we could scale it back just enough to, like I said, I'm trying to buy us some time because I'd like to get it done, but maybe we don't get everything this time and we get as much as we can and go from there. I don't know.
Well, then we have till spring until this is, we really need to get,
Right.
working on this as far as breaking ground and things like that. That gives us quite a few months to look at those types of things that you're talking about, to secure funding in other areas, and to have a lot better picture of what we're looking at. It would be nice if we could, and we can, like I said, it puts our budget a little tight, but we could pull it off if we really wanted to. I just hesitate a little bit and think there's other avenues that we might want, other stones that we might want to look under the board. But we can do, it's within what we can do. It's just, do we want to put ourselves in that kind of a position?
Do we need when we're done discussing, we need a motion to go to public hearing to, okay.
So whenever you guys are done, then we can do that.
I'm ready. I just didn't want to steal anyone's thunder if they have
Let's go
something.
ahead and, if you're ready, let's do that. And then if there's any comments, we can also entertain those. So
I'll move, go into public hearing to discuss the CIB bond, I assume, for the municipal building authority. Is that the one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We have a motion.
Second.
We have a second by Councilman Clower, almost said Rowley. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we'll consider ourselves in a public hearing. Are there any here in the public that would like to comment on the sports complex, in favor or against or indifferent? No? Seeing none, we're going to take a motion to go back.
I move we go back into regular session.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second by Councilman Allen. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we'll consider ourselves back in regular session. We will have this on the agenda again, because like I said, we'll have to have, we've got a few steps that we've got to take before it comes before, and in between now and then, we have some.
Is there time to wait for the next meeting before? And I would
We
move,
have to.
okay, I was just gonna, I would move we table and have some time to think about it.
It sounds like a good motion. Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second.
A motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we'll talk about it next time, and it might be the next council meeting, it may be the second one in December, depending on when all those T's are crossed and I's are dotted. But in between now and then, just know that we will be working hard to solidify some of those. We're looking at solidifying some bids and looking at other avenues of what I would anticipate if the council has connections and thoughts of how to kind of offset some of that liability. Let's put our heads together in between now and then and hopefully have some solutions for that. Okay. Next item is a public hearing for proposed garbage collection fee increase. So just to give a little bit of background, we have a 5-year contract with K&K Sanitation. Normally it was a 2-year contract. It was asked to be moved to a 5-year contract. That was obviously prior to COVID and Biden. And so.
Careful there, Mayor.
Oh, I have no problem saying that's on the record. But, and so they felt the difficulties of inflation and everything else, just like everybody else has. They have approached the city and presented a increase of approximately 20% to the city. Obviously, that's a significant increase, one that we didn't feel comfortable just changing or modifying a contract to without at least a public hearing and possibly a bidding process. And so this public hearing tonight is to get feedback from the public on what they feel that would be a correct way moving forward. Again, normally we would bid this out. There is some angst on the kettle side, obviously because there's some vulnerability there. That's a really hard word to say. Vulnerability. Couldn't get it. Anyway, so there's a little bit of nervousness there. There's also some reservation on the council side to just go ahead and increase that without doing our due diligence. And so we called this public hearing to get public comment and see what you guys think. And is there anything that I'm missing from the council's perspective on that? Seeing that, we'll go ahead and entertain a motion.
I move we go into public. Go ahead.
Don is not about to let you have it.
No, you can have
We
it this
go to
time.
public hearing to discuss proposed garbage collection fee increase.
I'll second
We have a motion by Councilman White and a second by Councilman Roosevelt. All in favor?
it. Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we have several members of the public that looks like would be interested in this subject. Again, we would ask if you have a comment in favor. One of the ways I've seen it done, and it works a lot better, if you're in favor of moving forward with just modifying the contract, let us know. If you're against or would like to see a bid proposal, let us know. But please come to the mic at the podium and state your name for the record. Are there any here tonight that would like to take that opportunity? Yes.
Aaron Wade, thanks, Mayor. Appreciate the opportunity to comment for a minute. And I appreciate all of you as councilmen and your selfless service. It's fun to be on this side. First time in 3 years. And I appreciate the public hearing, especially on something like this where rate increases proposed. Sensitive to that as all of us are. I guess I'm also sensitive to the contract that KMK has with the city. They've been a long time partner with the city and served the residents of Roosevelt City very, very well. It's a difficult time, as we know, and they have challenges just like every other business does as well. So I would just encourage, the council to find a way to make an amendment to the contract. I'm one citizen and represent myself and my family, those that are in the city that live with me, but we would be in favor of that modification to the contract to support that increase. Historically, all of our dealings with K&K as Roosevelt City have been very open, transparent. They've been very wonderful in helping us understand what the real costs are. And sensitive to that, I know they haven't taken a rate increase in quite a while. That being said, I know it's hard to keep paying for everything, but in this case, I think it's an operational increase that is well justified. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks. Anyone else?
Line your way.
Thank you for the opportunity. I appreciate your service too. My name is Gordon Snow. And I appreciate, as Mr. Wright said, your interest in us and as citizens in holding public hearing. We're probably as conservative as any of you. And hate, dislike tax increases and rate increases. Increases on my eggs and bread and everything else. But I have been a user of K&K for many years as a home contractor. Probably been one of their largest customers over the years, in lots of respects. I have always appreciated the dignity and service I received. I've been down there with a dump trailer and my battery was dead. And here they come with their backhoe and help me keep with my battery charges so I can dump my own trailer. I've watched them on the roadway and in my street as they picked up garbage, and some of my neighbors are not attuned to leaving it all in the dumpster. I've seen the driver get out and dump it, and then put the trash back in and dump it again. I applaud the service I've seen and they give it to me. You know, I'm concerned about going out for bid. When I think they've been quite conservative to us before, up to this point, and have been a very strong bidder every time it has gone to bid. You go out to bid when the price of diesel is $4 or $5, I guess, $5.30. What is it?
$5.55.
$5.55. I'm afraid your bids will be higher than their proposed increase. Because we have a huge spike right now. I'm very much in favor of an amendment to their contract, allow them to stay in business. I've also learned in the construction business, when I negotiate too low, myself can't finish, and then I'm in trouble. And I think they're a viable business for the community. Thank you for your service and thanks for listening.
Thank you. Any others? Going once?
I move we go back into regular session and
Okay. Motion to return to regular session, do we have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Councilman Baird, all in favor?
aye.
Any opposed? Okay. We consider ourselves back into regular session. Any comment, discussion by the council? There were a few comments that we did get via email. I think it'd probably be appropriate to share those. I got one, he asked that I share it in council meeting, and I'll state his name, Chad Orm. He says, I'm not going to make the meeting tonight, but just wanted to put in my vote to increase K&K's contract. And so it sounded like he was in favor of amending the contract. I know there was a couple other emails that I saw
Yeah,
printed out.
yeah.
I think
One
it'd be
was for
fair
and one was against, but if you want to read those, Mayor.
to read those. I didn't write these, so keep that in mind.
And there's one that came in over email just last. Two there.
Let's see. So this is from Mark Hicken. Nobody likes to pay more, but after reviewing the past budgets, I can see that there has been no rate increases for the past 5 years. I feel that to expect any business to operate without a fee increase is wrong. Grocery prices have increased, fuel costs have increased, everything is more expensive, just as Roosevelt City increases fees to cover costs. K&K Sanitation has a right to be reimbursed for their services. K&K Sanitation has always performed a good job for me. I called K&K. They are asking for a 20% increase in fees. Considering the rate of inflation over the past 5 years, this is not an unreasonable request. So, and I almost forgot to read this too. I think it's pertinent to the discussion. K&K Sanitation, this is their proposal. Basically what they have written: with the recent challenges that have been placed before us due to the inflation of fuel, tires, parts, insurance, etc. We, K&K Sanitation, are seeking some help with financial relief regarding these matters. We are seeking 20% increase, both on residential and commercial accounts. Currently, the residents of Roosevelt are paying $17.50 a month per can and $10 for each additional can for residential service. We are seeking $21 for the first can and $12 for each additional can. This is a 87-cent per week increase for residential services. So what are our costs on top of what K&K charges for our administrative costs?
Well, we currently do all of the billing, so the printing and the mailing and everything is absorbed by the city, as well as all the collections are done by the city, and when people do not pay, the city eats that because we do not reduce what is paid to K&K based on payment. And so there's quite a bit of administrative cost that goes into the calls that come in from the public as well.
And I think that was something that we discussed with K&K as well. If there would be an amendment to the contract, maybe we could address some of those concerns that we have as an administration, the cost that we incur to make that happen, making sure that Roosevelt City is whole that way. So I think that needs to be part of that discussion in the amendment if that's the way we proceed. I'm wondering, I don't think I'm missing. There's one other one. This is from Doug Murray. He's just questioning, is Roosevelt City going to open the garbage collection back up for bid? We're going to give it out to the county business that is under a 5-year contract. I don't know what means exactly. What is a good contract if it's not being upheld? Maybe there needs to be a few changes in Roosevelt City. Roosevelt City does not believe is supporting local business, so I believe they will grant K&K the increase with no questions asked. The citizens of Roosevelt need to stand up and ask the council if they have the best interest of Roosevelt first or other priorities. Obviously, holding this meeting, I think we definitely have the interests of Roosevelt City citizens as our number one priority, but do appreciate the comment. I think that's all the comments that I have.
This came in today.
Oh, that's right. One last one, and then it's decision time. So this is Mark Nelson, owner of RDT Garbage Services in Vernal. He says, I have personal friends and family. My in-laws are all from Roosevelt. By the way, if you email Roosevelt City or text, it's probably going on a public meeting, just FYI. Just because we have to make sure that those comments are available to the public so that they can see part of our reasoning and decision making. Says, I have personal friends and family. My in-laws are all from Roosevelt, and I've kept an ear to the ground over the past few months regarding ongoing frustrations regarding the current garbage service provider. I'm aware of the agenda for tonight's meeting, and I'm planning on being present. Are you here, by the way? RDT? Oh, yes. Sorry to throw you on the bus.
No, you're good. Thank you.
It's all good. Anyway, I don't expect any attention, but I do want you, each as sitting council members, the mayor and the members of the city government to know that we are absolutely interested in providing at least a competitive bid to provide garbage services to Roosevelt City, businesses, and residents. Should you decide to allow for bids to be prepared and presented at a future meeting, we would 100% prepare one for review and discussion. If your current provider isn't your only option, no need to feel like that is the case. In my experience, competition is always a good thing. I have several competitors, keeps everybody honest. Ultimately, and I've had this conversation with the Kettles as well, both parties win when there's competition, not only in business because they find ways to be more competitive, stronger, healthier, but also the clients or customers win because they're getting the best product for the best price. So that's all of them that I know about.
Well, based on the comments, most of them were positive and supportive, and I think going forward, based on the fact that that's all we have, we probably need to look at doing that. I'm just wondering time frame, and And, you know, if we want to, I'm hesitant to approve it now without having the discussion with some of the things you mentioned about making sure the, you know, the accounting and some of those things are addressed. Because I think that's important for us if it's causing us a lot of time and energy and some grief in terms of some of those things. I'd like those to be addressed. If we amend that, that'd be my only concern for the city and for the citizens, but also for K&K. But I'm supportive of the increase, but I don't want to say let's just do it without making sure we address the concerns of our employees.
But I feel like, and I really appreciate the comments that have been made, and I don't disagree. But I feel like there's a lot of underrepresentation for some of the people in the city that can't afford increases. And so that's kind of hard for me to listen and feel like, oh yeah, everybody's in favor, because I know that there's people out there that are not in favor. And so, I mean, it's a tough situation. I've considered maybe, you know, and I don't know if this would be good for the city or not, but maybe if we did do this and we get it back into the contract, change it back to a 2-year contract, just so that we, you know, get to that RFP sooner, if, you know, something like that. But I don't know, there's probably other things we could talk about too, to try to make it so that we're considering everyone's feelings. Because I would bet, well, yeah, I shouldn't bet, but I would think that there's a really good substantial amount of people out there who would be really discouraged by another increase. And when you enter a contract, as Grant mentioned in the last meeting, the purpose of that is to lock in a price. And I've done contracting before in my professional career, but also there's a need for change sometimes. There's change orders that happen all the time too. So, and this is definitely extraordinary circumstance. So, but I want to just think through it a little bit more, maybe, or
Yeah.
Mayor?
Good comment. Yes. Well, I'm going to introduce you so you don't have to get up.
Yeah.
Speak loud.
Middleman. Moon Lake has a pay it forward type thing. We round off your bill to the next dollar. Have you thought about maybe doing that to support Dave's idea there? Some of the people that struggle.
That's a good question, and Dave makes a good point, because we had to raise rates on the secondary water system because it was not paying for itself. And what was the rate increase, Ryan?
We put the charge of $6.
$6 a month. And we had a lot of people show up that were very concerned about that, and most of them that were on fixed incomes. And so that's part of the reason to having this meeting tonight. We learned our lesson to be very sensitive to those people that are on those fixed incomes, because that amount of money, it doesn't seem like a lot, but to them, it's either, you know, paying their bills or not. Or I mean, they're going to end up paying most of their bills, but running short or not, I should say. Anyway, good thoughts. I think the biggest thing that we need to address tonight is whether or not we're going to go for bid, or whether we're just going to look at, and because I think Grant needs the direction from the council which way to execute the contract that we currently have. Obviously, if we go to bid, one of the party or the other has to give notice of termination of the contract, the 180-day process, and then the bid process happens. If we amend the contract, then we can start looking at amending it, and obviously we would want to put, you know, make sure that our bases are covered when it comes to our administrative.
Can we just amend it that way, Graham, or do we have to go to RFP?
You can make an amendment, but my advice is if you want to make changes to the contract, I think it's cleaner if you terminate it and renegotiate it, and as part of that process.
Okay.
But it is possible to make amendments.
I think that's the direction, the main direction we need right now is what process to proceed with. And then everything else that we're talking about as far as, making sure maybe we reduce the contract from a 5-year to a 2-year again. Just because this was an unforeseen thing. K&K took on some debt with the truck, and they wanted the security of the longer term, which it was unfortunate because of the situation with inflation and the economy. So we just need to know which direction to move forward, and then we can go there.
Well, I appreciate Councilman Barrett. I think there probably are people that didn't come that are supportive, and people that couldn't come or didn't come that probably aren't supportive of that. But I also know that at least in the past, based on ex-Councilman Waite and Gordon Snow here, that and others that I've talked to, that they've had good service, and I think there's something for that, to reward. But I don't know. I'm struggling because I don't want to just, like I said, I still want, if we go forward, I'd still like to amend to adjust those things. And if Grant thinks it's better to do the RFP, maybe that's the route we go. I don't know. But I do think, they provided good service for a lot of years, and to me, there's something to that. I'm not a fan of always going with the lowest bid if I don't know the group, or if I don't know, what the service they provided or what's happened after they get the bid. Then things come up, and then they change the contract or try to or whatever. I've seen in the past people take the lowest bid, and it'd be the worst situation and end up costing them 2-3 times more at the end. And so I'm in a quandary here because it's hard.
One thing to consider too is we don't have to take the lowest bid.
Yeah, I know that.
It's in our provisions that we take the lowest responsible bidder. Obviously, K&K has demonstrated their commitment, and they're a responsible company. They've been around for a long time, and so those things can be weighted. That's why we're having this meeting, because we're all in a conundrum too.
Yeah, exactly.
Because we want to do the right thing, we want to follow the right process.
Well, and Councilman Baird said it's extraordinary circumstances, and as you said, Biden and COVID, and I would agree with that. And I'll go on record too.
There's nothing in the current contract that allows for a rate increase. Am I right?
And that's part of the reason why I was thinking, if we're going to change it, I would like to start with a new contract, maybe build in some of those things that could take into consideration fuel prices, or there's lots of different ways to do it. We could do it based on the cost of living index or something like that. You could even just base it on the fuel cost of living index and make it so that there's more some automatic adjustments, but the one that we have right now.
And then if we did that too, then we wouldn't have to have the public hearing, because it would already be in the contract and be understood.
It would be spelled out, and you'd be covering all that when you enter the agreement.
Because that's why we're having, part of the reason public hearing is because we want public input, but also to do the rate increase, we have to do that anyway.
And we probably have a public hearing anyway, not for permission, but just to let the public know
Right.
what's happening.
Well, I think that's fair. We need to be transparent. That's a good point, Mayor.
Mr. Kettle.
Mike, we got the figures here. In 2018, inflation went up 1.9. 19, it went 2.3. 2020, 1.4. 21, it went 7.0. And in 22, it went 7.7, which is about what we're at. And I mentioned too, since we first come in here and started talking about this, diesel fuel's been over $1. Since we come in here 6 weeks ago, or 8 weeks ago, whatever.
They need to take more oil out of the reserves.
Well, I don't know where they need to get it from, quit sending it overseas or something, I don't know.
But you're absolutely right. And time is of the essence to a degree. This is definitely something we want to get done as quickly as we can. However, I do agree with what Grant said. A new contract, whatever direction we go, is going to be the best. Because then we can anticipate and we can look at history, we can look at what's happened and work some of those things into that contract so that we don't get stuck in this situation again.
But anyways, there's a couple of things I wanted to bring to your attention from
Yeah.
our point of view. It's, I know that it is all referred here to Roosevelt City. We've raised the county and we burned 10,000 gallons of fuel a month. Most of the Roosevelt checks go just pay the fuel bill.
Yeah.
Anyway, thank you.
Thank you.
In order to redo the contract and go out to bid, do RFPs, how do we have to give that notice of 180 days first? Wait 180 days and work that out? How does that work?
Once you give the notice, I'm comfortable with putting out the bid if that's what you want to do. And it could be either side. The Kettles could decide this just doesn't work for them and the council's not willing to increase it now, or the city could be the one to give notice. But once either party gives notice, I'm comfortable with starting to take bids.
So it could potentially, if we put out the bid, we could get as soon as the bid come back, we could make a decision and implement a new contract. If it was with the Kettles, potentially negotiate the new contract right then and just move forward and would not have to wait the full 180 days.
Yeah, you could.
Can I make a comment again?
Sure.
You know, it's an extremely timely thing with the price of fuel where it is. I'll almost bet you, and I'm willing to bet, that your bids will be higher than the proposal. Only because both bidders, or 10 bidders, are gonna have to bid the new price of diesel. And this is all related to the price of diesel. That's all they do is run those trucks up and down the street.
That's why I think it's unfortunate that nothing was built into the contract that we have now.
That's right.
But I don't think that means that we should just go against the contract or, make an amendment if we don't feel like that's a safe thing to do for the city. So for me, I think there's two options. We can stick with the current contract, or we can breach that contract and go to an RFP.
I'm more sympathetic towards understanding the situation and I'm thinking that there's definitely something for the service they've given over the years to consider, but I do want to, and I agree, I think really it sounds like our only option is the RFP, just because that gives us a cleaner contract and then we can build those things into the contract. I just hate doing it because it feels like that's going to take more time, and I'd like to get this done sooner because, those fuel costs aren't going down, and I agree with Mr. Snow that, I don't know that we're going to get anything better. It might even be worse.
Yeah.
And
I agree. I mean, I appreciate what the services that have been given to us, and I would rather already have that built into the contract where we could, because according to the public, we don't have a big public outcry that's against this. So I would be okay with raising the rates, but that's just not built into the current contract. Therefore, I don't think we can do that and feel okay about it.
Well, ultimately, we need to move on because we spent a lot of time on this.
I know.
But before we do, we need some direction for Grant and Kettles, one way or the other, which way to proceed. It's a tough situation, but we've got some solutions and let's choose one and move forward.
Just one other thing I was thinking of, we talked last time, didn't you say that we put it out to bid once before and didn't get any? I know you got the email from the one gentleman over here, but.
I think we did. Yeah, historically, have there been any bids but the Kettles come in?
I I don't remember. Wasn't involved.
What did you ask?
If there have been any proposals besides the cat when we've done an RFP.
My memory is that there was not one the last time we did.
Yeah. So I don't know if we get more than one. I don't know if we get. I don't know what we get. The hard and for me personally, I'm just all about the process, making sure, and that's why we're having a public hearing.
Right.
Just making sure that we're following a process that everybody feels comfortable with.
I'm just thinking that I'm stuck here because I feel like we need to, but then I also want to be fair. I don't know.
I'm more on Don's side, and I'm curious. I don't deal with contracts, so I wanted to listen to all your comments and everything. What kind of ramifications are there if we accept the increase and just say we'll put it out to bid in a year?
Well, it's a 5-year contract, right?
But if we have to terminate it no matter what.
No, we could amend, if we just amend and take the increase, we could do that, and then we'd move forward. We'd just finish up the 5-year, and we wouldn't have a bid till the end of the 5 years. If we terminate, then we could redo the bid as a 2-year or whatever is chosen, and we could add those other things, but we could also just take the current one and amend it, right?
Yeah, you could. You don't have to terminate either way. The time that I'm saying that I would definitely advise you to terminate is if you want to put it out to bid. I would not solicit bids with the contract.
Right. And I'm more leaning towards I'd rather amend it now with the stipulation we work with the office in terms of some of the concerns they have and then move forward. That's kind of what I'm thinking of based on they have the infrastructure here, they provide a good service. I'm kind of leaning that way. But I also understand the mayor's point is that by doing an RFP, then we're protecting ourselves and we can create a whole new contract and everything's clean. And that's where I'm stuck because I feel both are good decisions, but both are difficult decisions too.
And where we have been, this was brought before us almost 2 months ago, and we have had multiple meetings. And, this public forum was specifically called for this. I think we've satisfied those requirements of talking to the public. But
one of the things too that I would like to point out, if we amend the contract, it's not limited to the increase in rates. We could amend the term of the contract, which I think now looking back 2020 hindsight would probably be a good idea to not have a 5-year contract.
Can we do that, Grant? Amend it to like 2 years?
Yeah, but the more things you amend, the harder it is to defend if a third party is challenging it. And that's why I'm saying that if there's going to be any amendments, my recommendation is to terminate it and negotiate a new one, not make an amendment.
I feel like that would best I get what Gordon's saying too, and that was the concern I had when they came last time, was that even if we did contract it and renegotiate it, and get new RFPs or whatever, it could end up being even more than what they're requesting.
Yeah.
But I feel like, I don't know, I just feel like it's the right way to do it. I feel like the people of our city would appreciate that. Well, I don't know. See, because that's the hard thing is if prices go up even more, then that was hard for them.
Yeah, see, that's my concern. If we go out to RFP, they could go up more and then we missed out on our opportunity.
This might help with that, because the way I'm envisioning a new contract shaping up is that there are probably going to be provisions where it can adjust up and down. So I think we've seen some kind of unprecedented changes quickly, and I'm talking about fuel prices. I think that the contract going forward is probably going to have provisions where it can move up or down depending on the price of fuel, and we'll have to decide exactly what we want to attach that to. I think the cost of living index is probably the safest way, but it's not the only one. But we'll need to tie it to something and then have a formula in there where it can adjust either way. My understanding of the Kettle's proposal right now is that they want to go up to 7%, and then it would just be set at that. If there's gonna be changes, I recommend that it be, let's where it can go both ways.
I think it was 20% grant and we set at that.
On the inside of that.
Yeah, but you make a good point, and that's a thought that I had too. You know, and it is a little bit of a gamble, and it's just a thought I had, to take it for what it's worth. But in 2020, fuel dropped, bottom dropped out in 2019, 2020. I mean, it went from $3-4 a gallon to $2 a gallon. You know, and there was no mechanism in there to, and we didn't expect anything. So there is that a little bit of massaging, but ultimately, I think a new contract serves the city best and serves K&K best versus just amending the current contract. That's my own personal opinion.
I think,
However we get to that.
yeah, I think if we're gonna go that direction, which I think that's the smartest direction to go for the city, because then we could save the citizens money potentially, you know, and then it could be in the Kettle's benefit if gas prices go up. Or, you know, but I think that's the right thing to do, honestly, to open up for an RFP and to incorporate that into the contract, so.
And I didn't say RFP, I just said, not that I disagree, I just want to make sure that.
Okay, yeah, but I feel like it's, if we're gonna go that route, we have to do an RFP, because regardless, I mean, if we give them the 20% raise and we're locked in for 5 years, something happens, gas prices go down a lot, you know, our citizens aren't gonna be happy either, so.
So let's do this. There's two distinct, and they're not too far off, but we have to do an RFP. And it sounds like there's some people that would like to see that, and then we have some that would like to amend the contract. Me personally, and I don't get to vote, I don't know that we have to go full on RFP, but a new contract sounds really good, just to address everything that we're talking about. Either way, I'd like to have a motion, and we can have multiple motions on the floor. And then we'll treat it that way. So if somebody's ready to make a motion one way or another, let's do that. And like I said, we can do multiple and vote on them and just see how it works out, or we can we can't table it. We're not tabling it. We're gonna get through this.
I'm sorry to keep asking.
Some more comments.
I did have a comment. I'm the black sheep in the room a little bit right here. I don't personally know the Kettles. I've heard really good things about them, and I'm a new owner of the business that I own. I've had the business now for about 8 months. I think you're accurate in saying that the things that you need to add to the contract need to be added to the contract, both for the protection of the city and for the protection of whoever ends up servicing your needs. I think that's only fair for both parties, and it takes a lot of headache out of your guys' court as well. That being said, I mean, here I am, right? We're business owners. We have to plan, and we have to foresee what could potentially be coming down the pipe. In my understanding, this contract's only been in place for a year. In my opinion, those prices should have been built into that original bid, into that contract. We knew Biden was going to be there. We knew crazy stuff was going to happen. It is what it is. Fuel prices, I'm a business owner. Fuel prices have not, they didn't break me, and they're not going to make me. Truth be known. Mr. Kettle said it best. He said, my county fuel bill is covered by my city expenses, my city check. That's planning. What are the county costs versus what are the city costs? Are those flip-flopped? Are those lined out? There's things that way that I think need to, could be addressed as well. Again, not to take anything away from the Kettles. I don't know them. I don't know their business. I hear really good things about them. I'm not from here. I have family from here. So again, there's a lot more than just someone's going to come in with a cheaper price. Someone's going to come in with, this, that, or whatever else. For protection for everybody, I guess my point would be it only does make sense to redo the contract.
And the best way to redo it is to do what Grant suggested, right? Instead of,
My advice is if there's gonna be changes, I would terminate it. Do a whole new one, not just make amendments to exist.
You did have a comment, Jay.
So, I need to go, but,
Lucky you.
if I understand several things correctly, gentlemen, the facts are before you, okay? You can look at it however you want to look at it. The facts are before you. Okay, I don't know if you can understand what I mean by that. It's evident that there is a need and necessity for it to happen. Okay. Second thing is this actually, if I understand, if I remember correctly, gentlemen, this was actually an extension to a contract that we already had. Okay, so it actually goes back a little further than the 8 or 9 months or whatever we've been into this extension of the contract, or a year, whatever it's been, which might need to be considered and searched into just a little bit further. I can't remember whether we were in a 2 or a 3-year contract prior to that point. So it actually dates back a little further than what maybe is being perceived. I think that's all I have to say. I do need to go. Thank you very much for your time. I think that the reason why it is hard for each of you briefly, and it's hard to separate sometimes. How do I say this? Maybe friendship and love and concern and things of this nature. There is a special bond that we have with the city of Roosevelt. We might be a couple miles on the other side of the county line, but every aspect of our lives is kids are here. I mean, there's a special bond. I know, and actually, I don't know each of you on an individual basis. I learned that my daughter actually took Mr. Clower's daughter on a date the other day. You know that.
There's conflict of interest.
I'd say.
Is it good or bad? No, we truly, I think, I don't know if that makes any sense at all, but I'm going to swear our hearts on the sleeve as well. And thank you for your time. And that's just something
I'm ready to make a motion.
Okay, we have finally, thank you, Councilman
I move
Wyatt.
that we cancel the contract and renegotiate without going to.
Okay, there's a motion on the floor. Any discussion?
That was without RFPs.
Okay. Is there anyone else that would like to make, because we have had, is there anyone else that would like to make a motion? So did you get that motion? To cancel the contract and then create a new contract without going to an RFP?
So is that given the one hand? Okay, never mind. Sorry, I was just gonna say,
The amended version.
so I would actually make an alternative motion. I think this is great. I mean, democracy at its best here. We're all representing our own people, the people that we talk with and stuff. And so I mean, I don't mind a split motion if that's what it comes to, but, or, split vote. But I'd make an alternative motion that we cancel and then also do an RFP.
Okay,
I'll second that.
we have a motion and a second. Okay, do we have any discussion on that or any alternate motion? We can have up to 3. Okay, so the process is we vote on the last motion first. So the first shall be last and last shall be first. We have a motion by Councilman Baird and a second by Councilman Cloward. All in favor? Well, let's do roll call. Roll call vote. All those, Busenbark,
nay.
White,
Nay.
Baird.
Yay.
Yay.
Okay, motion is struck down. Now, back to the motion that Councilman White made, that of moving forward without an RFP, but terminating the contract and renegotiating. Rosenberg, yay?
Yay.
Could I amend that motion now, or do we have to?
I'll allow you to amend it.
Okay, could we amend that to shorten it from a 5-year contract to a 2-year contract?
Okay,
That
so
would
we
be
have
my
an amended motion on the floor. Do we have a second to that amendment? Second by Councilman Allen.
Mayor
Okay.
Beard.
Hey, he could be.
For further discussion on here, just staff recommendation here, just one thing to keep in mind for shortening a contract from 5 to 2. These individuals put a lot of investment into this, and it does make it very difficult with them shortening from a 5-year term to a 2-year term. With the amount of investment that they're putting into this type of an operation, again, just part of consideration.
One other thing I would say is all of the terms of the contract, if you're doing a new contract, are subject to negotiation. You don't really need to specify them, in my opinion, in a motion, but you can address it when a contract comes back before you, just like you oftentimes approve things subject to certain changes. You could do that later on and specify whatever time period you want when you approve the contract.
Good point.
Okay, so I don't know where I stand on that amendment.
I think it's unnecessary, that's all. Just, it's a good thought, but it's something that we can work out when the new contract.
Because I recognize there's investment. When you've got yourself a 5-year contract, you put more money into your business, so.
I agree. I just think it needs to be noted that that's something that needs to be looked at, and one of the provisions that we need to look at in that. So we'll go back to the original motion, I assume. Do you need that restated? You have it, okay.
Just for clarity.
We cancel the current contract, renegotiate terms without going to RFP.
Do we have a second to that motion? And we have a second by Councilman Allen to that. Now roll call, Councilman Rosenberg.
Yay.
Councilman White.
Yay.
Councilman Baird.
Nay.
Councilman Cloud.
Nay.
Councilman Allen.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm glad I didn't get in a position where I had to vote. But that motion passes, and so that's the way we'll proceed. Appreciate everybody's thoughts and the discussions we've had on that. So, with that, let's move on to the next agenda item.
Thank you.
Public hearing, man, why did we do 6 public hearings in one night?
The rest are fast, right?
Public hearing fiscal budget 2023 budget reopened.
There's several items that we are requesting, adjustments on the fiscal year 23 budget. From the, general fund, we are asking for an increase of $10,000 for fireworks. This is due to, price increase. We're just seeing huge price increases in the cost of the fireworks. And Ryan can really clarify on some of this. This is taking into consideration doing the 4th of July and the UBIC fireworks. Doing something on a much smaller scale for New Year's, not actually planning to do, is that correct? That's stating that. And we're still looking at a $10,000 increase over what we have historically spent for fireworks. And we will be doing a little bit bigger UBIC fireworks display this year, but UBIC will be paying the additional. It's $300, so they want to, they're willing to pay for the variance, but. So we are asking for 10,000 for the fireworks. And that's the only adjustment for the general fund. The others are on the capital project. And on these capital projects, we're not really asking for additional funds. We're asking for you to consider allowing us to move some of the funding around. So at the cemetery currently, under capital projects, we have 100,000 that we have set aside for a sinking fund for future expansion, which we all know is something we're going to have to do very soon. But we have been working, this is actually something, if you'll remember, we've carried over for the last couple of years, working with Sunrise Engineering to upgrade the software that we use so that people will have with the GIS to be able to get on their phone or whatever device they have and say, where's grandma buried? And it will actually direct them right to this. Anyway, in the process of the last 2 years, getting this in place for what it is that we're actually looking for, the increase there has gone up. The budget we have is 11,000 and it's going to be 15,100. So what we're suggesting is that we take 4,100 from the amount we were going to set aside for the future expansion and just roll that over to pay for it. Similar in the animal shelter, they have a real desperate need for new cat towers over there. Road has a real cat issue in Little Roosevelt. So we have $12,000 budgeted for cat towers. We had last year 8,000. We increased that this year to 12,000, and now she's looking at quite a bit more, another 10,000. It's going to be $22,000 to do these cat towers. She has $25,000 in her budget also for maintenance, repairs, renovations, just to do some updates at the animal shelter, and she really feels that the cat towers are more important than any paint or other things that and it would still leave them some money for that, but she'd like to take from that 25,000, move 10,000 over so she can afford the cat towers. Again, so none of the capital projects are actually an increase. We're just asking to make some adjustments. And then in the water fund, there are 3 items, and I'm just going to have to admit that we just missed these in the budget. One of them is a carryover that was missed, and that was $15,000 for the Ballard City water connection. That just hasn't happened yet and did not get carried over. And then,
Excuse me, sorry to stop you. We're paying $15,000 towards a Ballard City water connection.
Ryan is going to have to give you more details on this, yes. Is Ryan out there?
Yeah.
I thought they were.
Yeah, I was gonna say that shouldn't have cost Roosevelt City anything.
Ryan, can you explain the $15,000 for the Ballard water?
Can you hear me all right? So this connection request was what, a year and a half ago? It was supposed to be on last year's budget and they never.
They're paying us, they're reimbursing us for that, right?
Only, so 15's kind of a buffer number right now because we don't have the exact price, but we're supposed to pay for the meter and the valve, everything up to the meter. But Ballard is paying for the vault, everything else, all the other infrastructure. So with inflation, I called Ben. He didn't know the prices exactly, so we felt that 15 would at least cover it. But if we don't get charged that, we're not going to spend that. This is just covering the meter and the valve and the connection. There's something wrong.
He was breathing in the mic.
Breathing in the mic.
Am I on mute or what's going on here?
I was like, oh, he's getting upset.
Well, I remember we talked about this, and I think I remember you saying a year and a half ago, whatever, that we would pay for the meters so we could see how much water they're using, because they're just using this as an emergency because they had a problem with the.
Yeah, and they were struggling getting funding and stuff for this project. So we had the contract in place ready because that was part of their process applying for money on that. So we took care of our side, and in that contract it does say that we pay for everything up to the meter. So connecting on the valve, backflow meter.
Okay, I guess, I was unaware that we were
Well,
paying anything to that. I knew we were going to inherit the vault when it was done. But I wasn't aware that we were paying anything for that.
It's just, the only thing we paid for is just those small items. I mean, this is probably a $200,000 vault,
Yeah,
so.
okay, carry on, sorry.
No problem. And then last but not least, we have a $45,000 annual payment due on the Hayden Tank bond. We have not closed on the final on that. However, the way that CIB handles these now, payment is due. And it was not on the budget for this year, so. And I skipped one. The 20,000 for the lease payments, again, it was an oversight on my part. We had lease payments in for all of the other vehicles. I do not know why I missed the water vehicles, but I did. However, we have been shifting some vehicles around, and I actually have $21,000 in the general fund that will not be used for lease payments. But I need permission to move that then to the water fund to be able to cover those. So again, basically, we're looking at about a $70,000 increase in actual funds because most of this we're just shifting money from one of those to another.
Any questions?
I move we go to a public hearing.
Okay,
Again.
do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second by Councilman Cloward, all in favor? Any opposed? Okay, we'll consider ourselves in a public hearing for the budget reopen for 2023. Are there any comments from the public? Seeing none, would entertain a motion.
We move back to regular session.
Okay, we have a motion,
Second.
second by Councilman Allen, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we'll consider ourselves back in regular session. Would entertain a motion.
I move we approve the budget adjustments, the budget changes.
Okay, motion and second by Councilman Baird, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion passes unanimous. Next, we have planning and zoning, public hearing for the State Street project. I don't know that we necessarily had to have this, but go ahead.
I'll make it short and sweet. This one, and just for transparency, we're gonna have a public hearing because we are pledging VNC road funds for this. It's just the breakdown of the $345,000 grant, $284,000 10-year loan, 0.5% interest from CIB. This is a continuation of our State Street project. So, any questions?
Just one, Rhonda, on our spreadsheet, was that added into that as well?
No. No, but no, it actually wasn't. And I should take the portion that will be the cities and we'll have to.
But that's probably nominal, right? What's that loan time for that one?
This is 10-year.
Okay.
What's do you have a payment, they see a spreadsheet?
I don't have the payment one written down on this. On the unit map.
I,
$284,000 10-year.
Sorry to
Put it on the spot.
yeah, put me right.
amortize that with the interest and everything.
That's probably about 30,000, roughly
Yeah, it's
28,000.
Plus interest, so yeah.
So I figure probably about 30,000. Okay.
This is for 8 South to 3rd South, widening the road, curb gutter sidewalk, redoing the intersection. This is a very much needed project.
Right. We already committed funds to it. We just went to see if we could get the extra we needed to make it happen. So I move we go to public hearing.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second? Second by Councilman White. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we'll consider ourselves in the public hearing. Anybody here to comment on the State Street project accepting the 60-40 split?
Good.
Okay, I move
Thanks, Hal.
we go back to regular session.
Okay, we got a comment. Thank you. So do we have a second to go back to regular session?
Second.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we'll consider ourselves back in a regular session. Do we have a motion?
I'll make the motion to approve.
Okay, motion by Councilman Cloud and second by Councilman Barrett.
I'm trying to help you.
Really? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, any opposed? Okay, motion is unanimous. Last one, Mr. Knight, you've been here a long time. We should put you at the beginning. So we'll turn the time over to Drew.
I'll make this shorter and sweeter.
It's not a public hearing, so we just,
So we are looking for final plat approval for the Grand Lake Industrial Park subdivision. Along with this, we do need in the resolution upon contingency that the 115% construction bond will be posted before construction of utilities. Everything has been described in the plans that we've received and reviewed by our engineers for compliance with some modifications of the detention ponds in lieu of storm drain. So as each lot will be built out, the detention will be designed for the surface runoff in the detention ponds will be engineered and constructed.
so it's not gonna go to one central spot.
Each lot will have to be designed accordingly to the build site.
Now on mine, do you have a plan for that? For example, Paragon, I have 3 sumps that were dug, and that's how I contain my water there, something like that.
Yes. Okay, exactly. Lot 1 has, I believe, Casey, can you speak to that? I guess you have to design the detention for the lot.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes, and we have reviewed that as well. I just remembered, sorry.
Yeah, no, you're good.
So, yeah, we do have the detention for lot 1. The building is constructed. The detention will be constructed as well before the final will be approved on that location.
Any questions from the
I just
council?
have a question. You said our engineers have reviewed that. Who's that?
Jones and Donnell.
Okay.
Okay. And then you said 115%. Did you mean percent or
Yes,
1,000?
115% is what our ordinance states that the construction bond will need to be placed for the project. So,
Okay. Any other questions?
So this industrial building site, this is just for industry, it's just places for businesses and stuff.
it's an M2 zone, which is heavy industrial, and Mr. Knight will be constructing. I'm not sure exactly his plan as far as developing the rest of this, but lot number 1 is constructed now with the building on site. The final is not complete yet, but we're getting close.
Okay, that's all I have.
Any other questions?
Move to approve.
Okay, we have a motion to approve. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Allen. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion passes. Discussion items. Let's forgo that one anyway. Purchase orders. I saw those go down. Any questions on the purchase orders?
I got all mine, I tried to come early and get them answered early, so I move we approve.
We have a motion to approve the purchase orders. Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Any opposed? Vote is unanimous. Let me sign this. I'm just going to sign that. Okay. City manager report.
I'll be brief. Like I said, John, trying to talk too fast. But this is really exciting. So yesterday, Councilman Busenbark was here. We had a safety meeting here in the office, and we had quite an event. We had a training on first aid, and we had an incident where an employee actually passed out in the middle of the training. The training was on how to handle if you find an unconscious person. And I just would like to give some accolades to some of our staff who were right on spot. Drew Eschler immediately rushed to the individual and helped him, just as the video explained. Kirby Wolfinger was there to call 911 immediately as needed. We also had Dusty. He ran over and removed the furniture and helped on this individual as well to make sure that he was safe. The great news is this employee is absolutely healthy, got a clean bill of health afterwards, but I really just want to compliment these employees from following the training from a few months earlier. But it was really great to actually see it in action and see our employees step up and do such a wonderful thing immediately. So if you get a chance, please reach out to Drew, Kirby, or Dusty and let them know what a great job they did. And Chief and Lieutenant Allen were also there as well, Lieutenant Tucker. Tucker. We're also there to be a great help as well. So please let them know what a great job they did. The other thing I want to let you know is the Enchanted Forest, which will be going on this weekend at Crossroads. The city has put together a tree there as part of our fundraising efforts for the sports complex. City staff stepped up with extremely short notice and got this tree together, and it looks fantastic. If you get a chance, it's right in the corner. It's a sports tree themed with baseball stuff. There's hockey stuff, soccer. It looks fantastic, and I just want to compliment the staff in coming together to put this together. And I think probably 90% of it was donated materials. And it just looks fantastic. So if you get a chance to go to the Enchanted Forest, take a look at it. Even better if you want to bid on it. All the proceeds from that tree will go to our sports complex. Any questions for me?
I would just echo what you said about, because for that to happen almost looked like it was set up, and yet they acted accordingly, and I applaud the training. I try to attend as many of those safety meetings and appreciate the efforts there. So, but yeah, I didn't know what to make of it initially. I heard the noise when he hit his head on the back wall there. But anyway, yes, I applaud them. So thank you.
Thank you. Committee reports, do we have anything? Councilman Allen, we'll start with you tonight. Do you have anything for reports?
Not really a committee, but I want to say the bleachers at the pool are a great addition. Those really, they're nice. The swimming, so whoever was involved in setting those up, we really appreciate it. That's it.
Thank you. Councilman Cloward?
Nothing to report.
I have a couple things very, very quickly. So we're still waiting on the gun range. What we've done up to this point is we want a memorandum of understanding between us and Ballard before we move forward. Everybody, I feel, is in agreement of what's to happen there, but I'd like to have it in writing before we proceed, just so that there's no, hopefully enough, there's no chance of conflict. But it eliminates a lot of possibility for conflict. And so I wanted to make mention of that. We're still working on that project, and shouldn't be too long before we bring something like that before the council, as far as just a memorandum of understanding that's written so that we both know what to expect. I think it's fair for me to say I know the garbage discussion went on for a long, long time. But just to clarify, and just it's fair for me because I didn't have to vote. I do think it would have been prudent to do an RFP. That's water under the bridge. I just want to make sure everybody knows what my feeling was, just in case it mattered. As far as anything else goes, I think that's about it. Obviously, we have some homework to do on the sports complex as far as just thinking about that. Again, we can swing it. It's going to be tight, but hoping we can find some ways to soften the blow of that just a little bit. And that's all I have. Councilman Barry.
I don't have anything, but also bleachers. I'll agree with Councilman Allen on that. It's been great. Thank you for supporting the swim program and providing those. I think it was very well needed. We were there tonight before this, and there's still not enough room, but it's way better than it was. So,
First off, I wondered if Josh, city manager, could maybe send a letter, if we haven't already, to Craig Labram to thank him for the November 11th Veterans Day at Arby's. I thought it was a nice program. It was cold, but it was definitely a good program. I would hope it said first annual on his little program there, and hopefully that's something they continue. But I appreciated that and think it would be nice if the city would send a letter just thanking him for his efforts there. You know, first time, there's always bugs and issues, but for the most part, I thought it was a great program and appreciated the veterans in their service. Thank you, Al. But I did appreciate that. At the Roosevelt Business Alliance, they mentioned the library would probably, they're looking at January if everything works well. So I'm thinking we probably need to, at some point, be addressing the Innovation Hub. I know we talked about it, but I'm assuming once they're out, that's something. I was also wondering about, we had talked before about the,
On the Innovation Hub, we do have renderings and things, right? That might be something we could bring, not in one of the next meetings.
we saw the renderings before the previous meeting, but I'm just wanting to make sure that if, once they get out, we need to, you know, make sure that's, I'm sure it's on our radar, but.
We are having ongoing meetings with preparations going on. So that project is continuing. We're doing everything we can on the outside of the building. Yes, we're definitely moving forward with that.
Have we gotten any bids on that yet? Any hard bids on any of the work to be done? That might not be a bad idea to start moving down that process.
Yeah. And then I know we had some discussion about the old building, the old city building, ambulance, whatever we call it over there next door. Have we had any thoughts or ideas or what direction? I just didn't want to, we went and, I know I went to visit, some of the others may have gone to visit, but it's kind of like now we haven't really talked about it. And I know we've got other projects, so I know I just don't want it to get forgotten because I thought there was some good discussion.
We have received some really good proposals and information from individuals that want to do a museum in there. So we are still looking at different options of that so we can present that to council. So we have some good input from the public as well as proposals for it as well.
But I know one of the things we talked about is this room is just not big enough, and one of the options might be using the courthouse, but maybe if that was remodeled in a way, we could use that possibly. And I don't know if that's an option, but I was more just, I didn't want it to get lost in the shuffle of, and I know we've got lots of 50 web projects, 56 or whatever projects or more.
Could I make a suggestion on that? Could we get have we done a poll to the community on that building to see? Could we do that? And just see what the community thinks about that building? And
do you want an open-ended poll or do you want to have specific suggestions?
You know, I was thinking that as right before I asked the question. I don't know if I want to steer the public on that, I guess. So I don't know how open-ended we can have it and still be productive. Does that make sense?
What if you give a couple of,
I was just saying I could draft some questions. You know, I often make surveys and things like that, so I could draft a three question survey that y'all can look over and see.
Okay.
You know, what your feelings are on the questions, if they give you the information that you're after without leading the public in one direction or another.
I like that, Mayor, getting the public's input on that. I just, like I said, we have that building. I don't want it to just sit and, you know, because I think there's potential there. And then I just had one other thing. Did we have anything where we need to meet in closed session? Because I have something I would like to bring up if we have time. If not, we can do it. It's not pressing, but there's something I have a concern about that I want to bring up with the council. I think
In a closed session.
In a closed session, but I don't know if we need it. If we don't need one, I can wait. Maybe just talk to
Shows
people individual.
Closed session tonight. Is that in there?
I wasn't sure if it's always on or not until I looked it on there with the citation. It is always on there, but the citation isn't always there, so we do kind of always have that option.
Right. When I saw the citation, I was like, well, I must have missed something.
You did. I just thought it was more prudent to leave the citation on there because why not?
Okay. We can definitely go into closed session, but you'd have to state what the purpose would be. You don't have to be very specific, but
How about we do this, based on time and stuff, it's not a pressing need, but I would like to maybe just visit with you and and then maybe you can give me direction as to the best course. I don't, like I said, it's not a big deal. I'm waiting to talk to our city manager as well. Like I said, I think let's go that route, and then if you feel like next meeting we need closed session on it or even an open, I don't think it's anything major, but I just want to bring it to the attention of the council and I've already talked to, Chief Watkins, and I've talked to, City Manager Bake. I just didn't know if that would be appropriate in closed session or open session, so.
Yeah, let's talk about it, and then we'll know what
Right.
to deal with it, maybe at the next meeting.
That's all I had. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, items for future discussion. Yes.
You just wanted to discuss with council about council meetings in December.
Oh, yes, so our council meeting in December would be the last one in December would be the 20th, right on the money, 20th. And so I'm okay with that, holding the meeting. How does the council feel?
Are we gonna have the one on?
Yeah, we'll have the 6th,
Okay.
which will be more of a work meeting.
I'm good with the 20th, having or not having. I'm good either way.
Sounds like we're good with the 20th, so we'll proceed that way.
Just the 20th?
Both. Well, I would say both. And then if we don't need the 20th, we can decide on the December 6th meeting if we need it or not, but that's tentatively planned, just in case.
I like that idea. And no need meeting if we don't really need one.
All right.
I move we adjourn.
Wait, we had a comment by.
Sorry.
Forgot to mention in regards to the Brad Knight subdivision, it needs to be on record that as he builds out those lots or before another building permit is issued, the road will be paved through the subdivision. Just so it's on record.
Okay,
So.
Thank you.
Okay. Can I move to adjourn now?
You got that on the record?
Almost. I'm okay.
Almost second.
I'm just kidding. Do we have a second? Everyone in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned. Thank you.